Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to pick number 22 in my top 31, or my favorite 31, hard rock and heavy metal albums of the 80s. I have painstakingly put together my list out of a field that's probably 250, 300 strong at least. So many great albums from the 80s, hard and heavy. Hard rock and heavy metal albums of the 80s. So many great ones. So hard to pick 31 out of, like I said, a pool of like 300 or more. It's probably more than that. It's just the list that I put together. But yeah, somehow, some way, I have done it. You have done it. So each and every day we're counting down till we get to our number one, our favorite album of the 80s, which will happen on the 31st of May here in 2023. So today for number 22, it is the fourth album released by this band. It was released October 4th, 1982 in most of the world. Came out a couple months later in early 1983 here in the States. It was recorded at Dirk Studios in Cologne, Germany, produced by the band themselves for Portrait in the US, Heavy Metal Records in the UK, Brain Records in Germany. Of course, I'm talking about Germany's Accept, Restless and Wild is that album. It has been my favorite Accept album for many, 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 many years. I've told the story a million times about the first time I ever heard the Accept album. Went over to my good friend Al's house after school one day in early, I guess he had the import. So when it was the winter of either late 82, early 83. I don't remember exactly when. He bought the import. He's like, you got to hear this album that I picked up. So I went to his place, went to his house after school, and he put the needle down on the record, and all of a sudden I heard the clicks and the pops and the hi-hos and the scream, and oh my God, there we have the riffing of Fast as a Shark, and just, that was it. I became an Accept fan. That day, went out and bought the album immediately afterwards, got the import, right, did not have this cover, right, and it had the live picture of the band, which is very famous here in the States, but yeah, fell in love with it. Just at the time, right? So we're either looking at late 82, early 83. You know, like extreme metal music, not really much of a thing. And then you listen to this now, this isn't extreme metal by any stretch of the imagination, but for the time, this was like a punch to the gut. This was crazy. This was heavy. This was fast and furious. You had the gravelly voice of Udo and the nonstop riffing and great soloing from Wolf Hoffman, and just, yeah, just tremendous, tremendous stuff. And, you know, shortly thereafter, right, all of a sudden we're starting to listen to stuff like Venom and Celtic Frost and Merciful Fate and, you know, Slayer and Metallica and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, you know, Restless and Wild is fairly tame by those standards, right? But still, to me, the greatest Accept album ever made. And yeah, Balls to the Wall came afterwards. Fantastic album too. Metal Heart is fantastic, right? I've had done some recent ones very good. Breaker came before this, is really good as well. But for me, it'll always be about this one. One of my favorite albums of the 80s. So what do we have on here? We got, you know, Fast as a Shark is on here. The Great Ahead of the Pack. The Killer Neon Nights, not to be confused with Sabbath song. Demon's Night. Gonko Stealing My Soul Away. The title track, Restless and Wild, so good. Shake Your Heads. Underrated, crushing track on this album. Get Ready, The Great Flash Rockin' Man, and of course, Princess of the Dawn. What a great closer on here, right? Just absolutely terrific, terrific. Of course, the lineup here, Udo Dirk Schneider on vocals, Wolf Hoffman on guitars. In the band at the time, but I don't believe he played on the album, was Herman Frank. All right, Peter Baltes on bass, and Stefan Kaufmann on drums. That right there is basically the classic lineup of the band. Michael Wagner did some engineering on the album, worked with the band over the production. As far as charting positions go, again, this was not a big seller by any stretch of the imagination. On the Dutch charts, made it to number 47. In Sweden, this made it to number seven in Sweden. And on the UK albums chart, this made it to number 98, so just barely dented the top 100. Did not chart here in the States at all, did not certify anywhere, but as far as like legendary status as a great heavy metal album and one of the important heavy metal albums of this time period, sometimes that means a hell of a lot more than album sales, right? Because for the people who know and care about heavy metal, this is the shit, right? So that's kind of the way it goes sometimes. You have to forego riches and sales and charting positions for legacy, right? And legacy of Accept firmly cemented with this album and many albums to come, and still to this day, there are, a great metal band still playing out there. Meanwhile, you have Accept and Udo doing their own separate things. Udo's doing some great stuff too with his own band UDO, but yeah, killer stuff. Restless and Wild is my number 22. Tala agrees. She's all into this album. I have seen Tala headbanging many, many a times to Fast as a Shark. Right? Yeah. Right? Say hi to everybody. There she is. There she is. Anyway, so thanks for watching, everybody. Let's hear your pick for number 22. All right. And also, if you care to comment on Restless and Wild, please do that in the comments below and list your pick number 22 as we count down to number 1 here in May of 2023. And thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, we have the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, as well as our merch page, all down below in the video description. So thanks in advance for all of that. And stay tuned, because, of course, it is Wednesday here on the channel. You know what that means. Wednesday is new release day here on Sea of Tranquility. So I should have 3, 4, maybe even 5 videos for you talking about new albums. I got a book to talk about today and show off today as well. So you get at least 3 or 4 album reviews and the 1 book review. And then, of course, 1 week from today, we'll do it all over again on Wednesday, because that's what we do every Wednesday, is reviews of new releases. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it, and we'll see you shortly with more stuff. Tomorrow we got the Monsters Den. We're going to be doing our favorite giallo films, of course, the great Italian films, mostly from the 70s, the precursor to the slasher genre, right? The great Italian murder, mystery, thriller, slasher, exploitation films, right? There's tons of them, lots of really good ones. We're going to be talking about some of the more well-known ones, maybe some of the more obscure ones, all of our favorites. So join the Monsters Den crew tomorrow night for that. Should be loads of fun. And then, of course, Friday morning at the Fun House with Martin Popoff. This week's episode, the topic is all about those very cool bands who, mostly in the 70s, released 2 great albums in the same year. Can you imagine? Yes, it happened quite a bit in the 70s. Bands were just cranking out albums. They would go into the studio for a couple of weeks, pump out an album, go back on tour, get off a tour, go back in the studio, and sometimes that all happened within the span of a year. An album, tour, album, right? 2 albums and a tour, maybe 2 tours, all in the span of 1 year. They were really busy in that time period. So we're going to be talking about some of our favorites that fall into that category. Friday, we've also got, what else we got happening this week? We have Ranking the Albums coming up on Sunday of the Glenn Hughes solo catalog. I'll be doing that for you on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. And lots more here on the channel. Thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pete Pardo. We'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.